it's funny because I was telling you I had a argument with an actress once, and she was like, "Man, what's the key to how do you make it?" And I said, "You know what, man? Show up, be professional, be courteous, and just work to get better because that's all you can control." And she was like, "It's got to be more than that, and this, that, and the other." I said, "If it would, somebody would bottle it up, and they'd be a billionaire." And we had a knockdown, drag-out fight. So this person ended up getting cast as a regular on a series, and about 2 years later, she brought me to dinner. And she said, "T, you were right." I said, "About what?" "About what you said." And this, I was like, "Oh."
Just show up and do the work. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of Talent Agent Talk, where we are bringing you real-life stories behind the scenes of TV and film. I'm your host and talent agent, Jason Lockhart, and today we got a pretty badass guest, Mr. Terrence Rosemore.
What up, Jay?
Dude, what up? I can't believe that you are here.
Me too, bro.
Freaking Otis.
I don't see you enough, man. I don't see you enough. This is blessing, man.
I know, it's time to wrap, dude.
Yeah, bro. But yeah, let's go, baby.
Well,
Let's do it.
we got to talk about Superman.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
absolutely have to. Like, I couldn't be more excited for you.
Yes.
Like, you
yes.
are just infamous now in the villainary world of the DC universe, you know?
Right.
Can you take us back to, like, well, you know what? It's interesting because you didn't audition for this role.
Actually, I did. I read for it.
When?
Maybe in December before they started shooting, or November.
How?
Well, I'll tell you what happened.
Because we just got the conversation with Chase about you working with James Gunn over and over and over. So this is news to me.
Yeah. So it was I think it was like a one-liner or two lines, and they wanted two versions of it, and I put it on. I'd already asked about my availability from one of James's people.
Yeah, we knew that it was
Yeah.
in motion.
So I'm thinking that maybe it was for some of the executives.
Oh, it could have been for something
at
else
DC
too.
or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it was lines out of our stuff. You know, out of Superman. It was almost kind of like, I don't know if you remember. You may have not been with AMT when I did the first Guardians 2.
Not for the first one.
My audition was, "There he is, get him." That was the line. Three ways. Give us 3 takes.
In person, or was that a tape?
It was a tape, self-tape. I was living in New Orleans. "There he is, get him." That's what started all of this.
Your
There he is,
intro
get
to
him.
the James Gunn universe.
I didn't even know what it was because at the time they were shooting Black Panther, Spider, you know.
Oh, sure. So it was Marvel NDA.
Yeah, so we knew it was Marvel, whatever fake name they had. I was henchman number 1. There he is, get him. I didn't know if it was Black Panther, Spider-Man. I did it, forgot about it. It's around the holidays. I'm driving back to Louisiana. AMT pops up on I'm literally at the Alabama state line. And I'm like, oh shit, I gotta call back. I gotta turn around.
It's a good problem. It's a good problem, dude.
To have, right?
Yeah.
Rich people problems. So I don't know if it was Susan or whoever. It was like, "Oh my God, you did it! You got Guardians!" Da, 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 da. And so I hear it. I booked something, but what did I book? She's like, "Guardians." Like, what is that? "Guardians of the Galaxy." I said, Wait, what did I audition for?" She's like, she explained it. I was like, "Oh, okay." And she says, and you're not, she was screaming, "And you're not going to be in prosthetics, so they're going to see your face." And I didn't know what any of that meant at the time.
Yeah.
And then as we figured it out, I was like, "Oh, okay." And so
They told me about you my first week in Atlanta.
okay,
They're like,
okay.
Terrence, he's in Guardians. Wait till you meet him.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna love
yeah,
him.
yeah. And so same thing, man. It was like they asked about my availability, and then when I think it came to the office, it was like, "Hey, they want you to do this, put yourself on tape." I still have it, and again, it was similar to that. You know, just like 1 or 2 lines, 3 words. We want 2 takes. I gave it to him. You know, I don't, you know how I am, man. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, everything. Well, I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons why you are so successful. I think that you show up to play and you love to play.
Absolutely,
You know?
absolutely.
Oh, how many projects is this with James Gunn now? Because I feel like every one he's done in Atlanta since 2017, you've been in.
Yeah, there's one I hadn't done, but then I came back into that. So I did Guardians 2, 3, Suicide Squad, Brightburn, Superman, and then one that I can't speak on. So
Yeah.
six of pretty much six almost now. And they also, as you know, hire me to read when they're
Yeah. And that leads
doing
to something.
absolutely. And really, that's just again just playing.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they invite me to do this with them. I guess I can say it. Supergirl. I read in the dress. What do you call it? The screen
The
test.
screen test.
It was 2 Supergirls and 2 Pa Kents. And then
But will you be Otis in those?
no, I was Superman, and I was Clark. Just whatever
Oh,
whoever's
you
in the
mean for the
scene.
read?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay, I
yeah, yeah, yeah,
thought
yeah. No,
like,
no, no,
are
no.
they doing a Supergirl movie?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
no,
You
no,
haven't
no,
told me
no, no,
about.
no,
You're gonna be
no,
Otis.
no, no, no. And so yeah, they were looking for Supergirl, uh, and so I read with the 2 actresses, and they ended up getting the one that they selected.
Yeah.
And that's out. For a second, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, wait, nah, they've announced it. But
Well, let me ask you, like, because it's so unique and special how like James Gunn wants you in his projects. But like, why do you think that is? Like, I have my own assumptions, but like, you're the one on set working with him.
absolutely, man. It's funny because I was telling you I had a argument with an actress once, and she was like, "Man, what's the key to how do you make it?" And I said, "You know what, man? Show up, be professional, be courteous, and just work to get better because that's all you can control." And she was like, "It's got to be more than that, and this, that, and the other." I said, "If it would, somebody would bottle it up, and they'd be a billionaire." And we had a knockdown, drag-out fight. So this person ended up getting cast as a regular on a series, and about 2 years later, she brought me to dinner. And she said, T, you were right. I said, about what? About what you said. And then I was like, oh.
Just show up and do the work.
Yeah, because I think what's happened is like when we live in Atlanta, so we're not in the LA thing, which is competition with, you've seen how crazy it can get, right? And then you got peers who you went to acting school or comedy troupe with, and then they're getting stuff you're not, and
It's the rat race.
it gets crazy. And so when you're out here, like, what's the secret? So, and the secret is like, I tell you what, I was Halle Berry's assistant on Monsters Ball, which she won the Oscar for. And I said, Halle, I teach. So if there's one thing, every person that I get close to who's established, I say, what's one thing I can bring back to my students? And she looked at me and she thought for a second, and she said, don't quit. And then she bust out laughing. I said, why you laughing? Because she said, you like B, that's it? And I said, I didn't call you a B. But I did in my mind say that's
Yeah.
it. But she says, think about it. She says, if you're good and you don't quit, eventually they will find you.
You know what I love about that so much is that I preach patience, persistence, and positivity.
Absolutely.
And I feel like those 3 things, the opposite of all of them is quitting. If you're not persistent, you're quitting. If you're negative instead of positive, you're walking down the quit lane. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if
Absolutely.
you're not patient, you basically quit because you have no idea what the future holds.
Trying to have a career in this industry is you got to eat the elephant. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Most people, they start at the shiny part first. And then sometimes they work their way back. I was working in corporate America for almost 8 years before I quit and joined the circus. I think I might have been 19 when I started working for this company. And I took a severance pay because I hate being in walls. I hated the red tape of bureaucracy. I had great job, great benefits. I'd be there 40 years. I could probably retire with a nice chip in my pocket right now, but I could not take it any longer. And I left. And one of the things I asked myself once I left, and they gave me a nice little severance. I didn't work for 10 years, not because of that severance, but because work started to begat work.
As it does.
I had a nut to where I wasn't pressing. You know what I'm saying? And so I could just go in and be free. And so one of the things I asked myself right after I left that company was, are you willing to give 200% all out? Are you willing to do that and you're still not guaranteed a seat at the table? You're a football fan.
Yeah, huge.
So man, there's only 32 head coaches. There's only, a couple of 1,000 or so players out of the tens of thousands that are playing in high school and college.
They grow up and want it their whole lives, but how do you get in the NFL?
Absolutely. And so there is everybody's got different paths. But what I asked myself, and this wasn't something I answered at that time or even a couple of weeks, it was like, okay, when I left that spot, when I left that company, I was maybe about 28, 29 years old. I didn't have any kids. And so it's go time. This whatever I'm gonna do right now, this is what's going. So I had to really think about, am I willing? I knew I wanted to do it. I got bit by the bug. But it was like, are you willing to go through the fire? And nothing's guaranteed. And I thought about it and thought about it, and thought about everything else that I wanted to be a wide receiver in the NFL. I was as a child. And then the next thing I wanted to do was be a DJ. And so, I told you I got into acting. And so, this is where I ended up. And the day I went to be a DJ, me and one other person were going to be interns. And the day we went to interview, they had a shakeup in the board. And they said, hey, guys, we're not going to see any people. We got some stuff going on. So we ended up joining the local access company and created a show together.
Wow.
That was a year before I got into acting, And so eventually I was going to find my way to this light, but that was the thing. Are you willing to do the work and just go for it? Because that's all you control. You can't control your height, permanently. You can't control your hair, your skin color, your gender. You can do stuff. You know what I'm saying?
But you can control what you're willing to give your all to.
Absolutely.
What you're willing to risk.
That's the only thing, in my opinion, that you control is getting better. Getting better, doing the work.
And look at you now. Like, you talked about being 28 years old, and now you're in the biggest movie in the world.
I'll be 61 at the end of this month.
61. And this is a movie that will probably make over $1 billion. And millions of people will get to see your work.
See, now you're scaring me because I wasn't thinking of it like that. I'm
thinking of it like that. I want those residual commission checks. I'm just excited. The kid in me is excited. The superhero fan in me is excited. Right. But I also know that, like, who you are, and I feel like good things happen to good people, and you do the work, and I'm not surprised that this has happened to you.
And I appreciate that. You guys have been, look, I'm loyal to a fault, bro. You already know. Every time I get one of these big things up, I get agents from LA.
Of course.
Calling me. And this is the first thing I ask them. I said, do you represent writers and directors? And they say no. I say, okay, I'm fine. Thank you.
Well, and you've had management and people come and go.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's going to be some really big, exciting things that happen immediately from this.
Right.
And we'll tackle them one at a time,
Absolutely. And look, man, if my biggest ambition was to be a movie star or whatever, I'd still be in LA, or I'd move back to LA or whatever. There's other things that I want to do.
Do you feel like you're happy in life?
I am.
I know you just got your master's.
I got my undergrad. I'm actually starting my
undergrad. I thought it was your master's degree.
No,
you just got your first undergrad degree?
I start my master's in the fall.
Of course you do. Of course you hear that, Kelly Madison? He starts his master's in the fall. We're gonna have to book out again.
I'm gonna I'm gonna get an MFA in screenwriting, so I can teach. And I just want to learn. I just want to be absolutely
night school?
Yeah. Okay. Adjunct professor. For the next strike or whatever. you know what I'm saying? Exactly. Man, I love life. I was just talking to my father today, and I said, man, the way we've been living, he retired at 55. My father's 82. He looks like he's 70 or 60-something years old. When he was 55, he looked like he was 40. And I said, my goal was to beat you at retirement. So I said, I've never told you this, but when I was 53, I stopped teaching. So I said, I semi-retired. He said, I semi-retired too because, I'm still, he's a travel agent. He's doing all kinds of.
Still doing it?
Man, he's going on some trip in a couple of weeks.
He probably loves it.
He does, man. Look, in the last 2 years, he's been to Greece and Hawaii a couple of times. He's can't keep him home. But man, I'm just blessed. Like I was telling him, I said, man, he said, how you feeling? I said, man, I feel like every day is my birthday, even on bad days. Every day is my birthday. I'm at that point where I'm losing peers now.
And you're only 61.
Yeah, I've got peers, man. A guy who I played football with in high school, he was under me. He was an all-city running back. Great health, looked like you, had a heart attack. And so,
You got to enjoy the day.
excuse me, I lost my mother when I was like 34 years old. She died when she was 54. So from 44 to 50, for 10 years, me and my sister helped take care of her. My father was divorced. And what I learned was not to take people for granted, not to take moments. My mother was my best friend. She's a bigger clown than me. She's the biggest comedian in the house. But she was fierce. She was loyal, a little firecracker. My dad is cool and quiet. And so for 10 years, I had to go through all the emotions, anger, depression, all of that stuff. But the blessing was that it wasn't a car accident or something sudden. So I got to appreciate and love her. And that's how I look at my friends and my family and you. Every time I see you, I try to come with something
You
for you.
do. I'm seeing something about you now too that I've never seen before, and that is how incredibly present you are. And I bet that's one of the like Patsy Rodenberg, who I always like to brag about, a British teacher. She talks about the importance of being present, and how the greatest gift you can give someone is yourself in the moment. And I bet that's why people love working with you so much,
That might be.
because you're giving them not too much, not too little. You're just there for them.
You know where I'm not gonna say where I got it from, but where it was emphasized to me. I was doing a documentary in LA, producing a documentary, and
Not
it
the
was
basketball thing.
no, it was something about the LAPD, and a buddy of mine was producing it. He gave me an associate producer's credit, and Obama had just been elected. He hadn't gotten into office yet. He hadn't been inaugurated, and several of the people in LA that we were interviewing met him when he was a congressman or senator or whatever. And everyone who we talked to who had met him personally said, man, he's just like, what you just said, he's present.
He's present.
He's there. He's like, you're the most important person in the moment he's talking to you.
So let me ask you, because I know that there's going to be some actors watching, and I mean, you're dropping some gems, but I wonder about James Gunn specifically. Is there anything that you feel like you've learned from watching him from project to project to project that you think like, wow, if an actor knew, if I could speak to like a couple hundred or a couple thousand actors about working with him, something that's positive?
That's a great question, man, because there's nothing shiny. There's no magic. I did a movie with Robert Duvall called The Apostle that he directed. And I'm right next to him, like, oh, so I'm looking. And we do a couple of takes, and I was like, oh man, the old man's losing it. And then I go look at the replay, and I say, oh my God, it's all there. I just didn't see it. It's effortless. James is a storyteller at heart. He's also a comic book head, so he knows this world. And he grew up and he was a nerd,
Yeah.
He's not a guy who's coming from other places and doing it. This is his world.
And he speaks no filter into the press. I love it.
Absolutely. You rarely see that. But that's his
I
passion.
love it. Yeah.
And it's genius because it ingratiates people. It's I've been thinking about, people ask me that all the time. And I tell you, man, we go in, we work long days, very little sitting around in your trailer, very little sitting in green room or wherever we're at, post-COVID. And you come in and we're just constantly working and getting it done. And I've never felt on one of his sets like, oh my God, I can't wait till this is over. Because he invites you to be a part of the process. And
Like
he's
magic brewing.
Yeah, he's just a nice guy. And I think he's like, I've watched him work with Idris and stars and stuff, and different. And I'm looking to see how they're going to react to him because he's got his little troupe of usual suspects. But it's just like he treats everybody the same, and everybody respects him. And I think it's like when you got a guy that knows what they're doing, like your crew in the office, they're following. All of us, we're following our fearless leader.
We're such a unit.
And
Yeah.
absolutely. And so there's nothing magical. It's just the basics again of being straightforward, being honest, being a good person, and people respond to that. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and not to take away his brilliance, he has a love for storytelling, and it's not melodramatic. It's just straightforward. I don't know if that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, this is what you're seeing, what you're learning, and he clearly looks for actors that can vibe that.
And most of the great directors that I've worked with, it's the same thing. It's nothing flash. There's no fireworks and elephants parachuting. It's just guys coming in doing the work. It's about the work and the way they communicate with you and the way they communicate to the crew. And it's like, everybody knows you have a clarity of what we're doing on the day. They do it, his staff, he does a great job of
He's probably very prepared.
absolutely articulating what we're going to do at that moment for that day. And then you're like, because you know how it is with us, man. We just parachute in.
Yeah, it could be a day, it could be a couple of days.
On a TV, especially on a TV show.
You could have worked with numerous directors over the past few years.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know what to expect going in.
Absolutely. And the good ones, I remember asking, I work on a movie with Maria Bello, and she says on a feature film, one or two things are going to happen. Either the director, if you got a strong director, he's going to lead, or if not, the lead actor will take the reins. And I've seen that happen.
And hopefully they're sending gold down the hill instead of shit.
It depends.
Yeah. Right. But you know what? Speaking of other directors and other projects, I feel like it would be a disservice to our audience if we did not bring up the fact that you have been this amazing character on Outer Banks.
Yes.
Dude, you have to have at least one good story or lesson from working on that show for years.
The audition.
Okay.
Process. So I'd auditioned for a pawn shop person. They ended up casting a black woman, and the guys have melted some gold down and they're trying to get a price on it. So I read for it. You know how I am, man. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I get a call from you or somebody in the office on a Wednesday at about 11 o'clock. Hey, Terrence, can you get down to South Carolina? Yeah, sure. Tomorrow? We're like, no, today. Can you get down there by 8 o'clock? Yeah. Actors. Can you wrangle snakes? You know how to ride a horse? You know how to scuba? Yeah, everything's yes.
That show loved to do it. Same thing happened to Gary Weeks.
So I drive down. So I'm freaking out. So, it's about a 4.5 hour ride or whatever. And I've got this 5-page scene that I'm...
To do that night?
Well, not that night. Yeah, or whenever. I don't have a lot of... I think I know I'm shooting the next day. And...
That's right. Because I remember talking to you from my kid's soccer game that evening.
It was the last day of the season. Matter of fact, what they do, they kind of schedule all the reshoots on the last day. Everything they want to pick up and whatever. So I'm in the car and I'm going over this 5 pages. And so as soon as I get to the production office, we were waiting for them to wrap for wardrobe to come fit me. And so I was like, hey, man, you got the most recent sides? That's what I want to see, make sure I'm memorizing. She's like, no, I don't have a script. So then when they finally get the script, it's a totally different character. It's Captain Teague. It's not the pawn shop person. And it's 1/8 of a page. And it's literally, I find these stowaways and we have an exchange. And it's like, please don't throw us off. We'll do whatever. I was like, all right, you can work for it. And then they say, where are you going? I say, the Bahamas. And then I walk off and then they look at each other. Oh my God, that's where we need to go.
Yeah.
So
and they sure shit did.
So what ends up happening when we shoot, the next day is 45 degrees. And the two leads, they're dunking them in the bay. And so now we're pulling them out of the water instead of there being stowaways. And that's the thing about Jonas and these guys. They're always putting the pedal to the metal, trying to get as much tension and action and juice. And so 1/8 of a page turned into about 2 pages. I'm a king at improvising. You guys don't know because I'm usually doing scripted auditions. So I always have improvs in my back pocket, stuff to say, just in case blocking allows you that, where you're not just trying to figure what to do. So after the first take, and I got to climb up 3 flights of stairs after pulling these guys out the water. So Jonas goes off on me. Come on, man. He's barking. I was like, oh, that's what you want? So I started, it was y'all are going pecan. I thought y'all was this and that and so forth. Larry, go get him some coffee. Larry. So I'm just calling Larry. Normally I'll call your name or family and friend's name, ad-libs. Larry, where's... So at some point, Agrippa, Electric, or somebody brings some coffee. And when the series came out, there were people like, I think that's JD's dad, that Larry guy. You know? But yeah, man, it was like that's how it was just. And when I found out the next season was that they'd already shot that role. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
They'd
So they
already
replaced.
Yeah, so they reshot it. And then another thing they told me, I guess I could say it now because it's their
knew
last season. If you notice, all of their shots look like they're shot at magic hour, right? Like 80% of the show is either in the morning or the sun up or whatever. So what they'll do, what we've done is, man, we'll rehearse for 3 hours, waiting for that sun. Or if there's
That makes it better.
it does because
the actors, this just like
that atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then another thing, what they said they do is like, a lot of times Netflix wouldn't want to do reshoots. No, we love it. It's fine. So what they do is they not shoot it and say, hey, man, the weather's not right. Or it's not matching. And then they got to shoot it now because they've got like a 2-day whatever window to do the reshoots or, whatever. And so that's what they would do, man, because they would shoot it and they weren't happy with it. And then Netflix was like, no, we like it. It's good. We're going to,
Interesting.
Yeah, so they started manipulating the process.
That's cool. All right, well, one last question before we wrap up.
Absolutely.
But this one's really cool, especially given everything you've said. Do you have a dream role?
Yes. Well, I have a couple. I would like to play a coach of a football team because I play football.
That's a shoo-in role for you.
Yeah,
It's a great role for you.
I've had a couple. I want to be a gritty coach. I've written a script that I might end up, having a role in if somebody finance it, based on my experiences my senior year in high school playing football. That, and I want to play a bad guy, but not just like somebody sitting in a suit like Big Shot. Just just a kind of quirky. Somebody you might see on Ozark.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what other shows.
So not just Otis.
Yeah, exactly.
Not bad guy Otis.
Yeah. Somebody who's actually, I think the dream role might have been Captain Teague.
Really?
Because I started off as a bad guy. And then
But you have an arc.
Absolutely. And I tell you
It's
what.
very clear.
I tell you what, man, what I get now I'm getting noticed from that more than anything I've ever, like when I go to the airport, going to LA in a couple of days, about 3 or 4 people are going to come up, going and coming back.
Well, it's going to be a lot different in a few months after everybody has seen Superman.
Restaurants.
But that's awesome.
But what I always joke is like, man, I'm so glad that Otis ended up having an arc because I was with a young lady who has a role in Snowfall. And she was in the Tim Blake Nelson thing I did. And we went to the hotel to have drinks. And somebody says, I hate what you did to Franklin.
That's great.
And I was like, man, I'm glad I redeemed myself.
I love that. Yeah, I love that you immediately note. Well, dude, it means the world to me that you came in here and
my pleasure, brother.
Put your heart on your sleeve and just really let the audience
Thank you, man.
into your heart and your life. And I have a thank you gift for you. Got this bag from our friend Sarah Carpenter. If you want to reach your hand in there, don't look, but you've won a free car.
I'll take it. I love it. I love it. Yes.
What'd you get?
Yes.
Nice.
I love these things, man.
Nice. Well, there's a lot of positive energy in that.
It's going on my wall, baby.
I know you like toys and stuff just like me. Again, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, man, my pleasure, brother.
Awesome. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Jesse Malinowski and Get Seen for producing our show. Love doing this. And if you would like to be a guest on our show because you got your own cool booking story, feel free to pitch it directly to us. It's talentagenttalk@gmail.com. Again, that is talentagenttalk@gmail.com. Terrence, the whole world's going to recognize you.
Thank you, brother.